Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Charles. So I work for Austin Fraser, and I'm going to talk today about, I guess, how I find like recruiting in the Magento market.
Is the next slide going to just show go to LinkedIn?
Keyword search as well. Yeah. So yes, a little bit about me. Look at that! Look at that beard. I miss that beard so much.
Tell everyone why you haven't got it.
I haven't got the beard anymore because I decided to go as Ali G the other day to a fancy dress thing. So unfortunately, I ended up looking like someone out of a German porno, and so I'm growing it back. But anyway, yeah. So a little bit about me. I've been in recruitment now a little over 3 years. In my first year within recruitment, I actually was recruiting within the mobile market, so doing more iOS, Android development recruitment, and you know, it's a good market, don't get me wrong, and that was within contract. But I worked alongside a guy who some of you may well remember, Alex Mason. I don't know if, yeah, a few nodding heads there, which is good. And Alex was, I guess, like really passionate about Magento, and he obviously went over to America just over a year ago now. And I guess I kind of put my hand up and said, look, I want to work in this market because I love the fact that he's able to go out there, he knows lots of people, but also has a good reputation, and it's a community element. And I think I just didn't really find that in the mobile market. So it was something that really kind of attracted me to doing it. So as soon as he said I'm off, I was like, fine, I'm sticking my hand up and I'm getting right in there. So so that kind of brought me to, you know, working with Magento now. So I've been doing it for just over a year. And it, you know, it's been an interesting one, but it was really born out of like the passion which I saw from Alex, which kind of infected me to have a go at it, really. For those of you who don't know Austin Fraser, so they're a specialist IT recruitment. They've been going now. We just celebrated our 9th birthday, hence the Ali G costume. And we focus within IT and engineering. That's both contract and permanent solutions from there. But we've actually been involved with Magento now, I think it was since 2012, I think when Alex first started. And I guess that's kind of testimony really to our kind of commitment to it, was that, you know, he was invited to basically become a co-organiser, and you know, he was well liked within the community. And I think when it is such a small community, I think that is testimony to it, and it's something that Austin Fraser are very proud of to be a part of. I guess, like, and off the back of this now, like, I've seen like promotions to rise higher within my business, and really what it's driving me to do with this kind of culture which we've got is to I guess, build a team around me that kind of empathises with this sort of getting amongst the communities and actually knowing the people that we're working with on both client and candidate sides. So I was going to sort of, first of all, when I was looking about getting this talk done, I was going to talk about like e-commerce stats, like a little bit like a school project kind of thing, like, you know, e-commerce is this, it is this, da da da. But I thought, you know, you guys are in e-commerce because you know how big it's going to be and how it's growing all the time and everything like that. So I thought it'd be interesting to kind of give maybe some stats which you guys don't always see, obviously around the kind of people involved in it. Austin Fraser made a real investment when we signed up with the guys at LinkedIn. I know some of you find it a bit of a dirty word, LinkedIn, but LinkedIn Recruiter actually gives us some interesting statistics which allow us to consult with our clients. And one of which I found, which was really interesting, is that it nicely plots where people are located. Oh, hang on 1 second. Whoa. Oi. Hold on. Right, he's behaving. Oh, we're an absolute mare here. There we go. Right, cool. So that's going to do its thing. So what's interesting, obviously, we're all in London, and the sample size on LinkedIn, obviously.
Should they just get rid of those percentages and just have 28 in London?
Well, it's an interesting thing, because so first of all, in terms of the sample size, so obviously we're relying on people updating their information effectively onto LinkedIn, granted, but Looking at kind of the back end, front end, core sort of Magento developers as such, it came in, sample size was coming in around 500, which across the UK is straight away you're thinking, wow, that's actually really small.
Add up to 100% though.
So this is with the top. Yeah. So obviously there's other locations where people operate, as I'm sure you're aware, but yeah, we focus on the top 10. And what I found really interesting was the fact that there's, of 28% of 500. That's fine.
So what does numbers mean? Where they come from?
So this is where, like, typically the Magento developers, front end, back end, people that work within it as their core skill set are located.
They come from LinkedIn, you said?
That comes from LinkedIn, yeah, from the stats we got from there. So I guess what it means is that it gives me an opportunity to be able to really see, like, I guess where hotspots are forming, but also consult with clients and candidates about where there may be other opportunities to work, where else we can identify candidates from. So I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of see that kind of spread and where else we're seeing the skill set starting to emerge.
What's the total number of developers?
So that was coming in just about, it was about 478. All right, so we're looking at 28% in London. There's probably about, quarter of that here right now. So it kind of, I guess, typifies like how niche the skill set is still. Some more interesting statistics we found were the popularity of employer associated with and agency came out well on top. But another thing around the kind of profile of individuals, that the top universities were University of Staffordshire, Manchester and Manchester Met. So I don't know if anyone here studied there, but that seems to be like where the kind of maybe the next generation are coming through. And that's typical of the degrees they do. But again, looking at the years' experience around sort of working within like the IT industry as well, again, it helps us build up, I guess, a profile and a realistic expectations when we're looking to identify key candidates and their availability. So I wanted to, get a bit more of an understanding of what makes a...
Interested in this one?
Yeah. So first of all, I kind of broke it down into experience. So when I talk about experience, I'm looking at...
Project's going horribly wrong.
So we're looking to identify like how many years, for instance. But first of all, before we do this, whenever you're looking for or trying to identify what's a great Magento developer, the first thing you want to look at is this client I'm working with necessarily, is that the right environment for the developer as well? It's a two-way thing. It's not just about saying, oh yeah, because you've got this on your CV, you've talked about this really well, you're perfect for my client. It really is not, generally it's not that simple. We want to identify what, you as the individual want, what do you like about projects, to kind of build that, I guess, about finding the right candidate for the right role, not necessarily the most experienced or something like that. So experience-wise, like how many years have you been working with it? Does that mean you kind of fall more into the like junior, midweight, senior? But I think when it comes with experience, you've also got like where's their experience from? Like who have they been working for? Are they typically people that hire good people? They typically work with quite technically challenging projects, because sometimes then like experience may offset with that type of experience. Years of experience may offset the type of experience they've got. So
yeah, if you work on a site that's got like 1 million products versus working on a site that's got 20, there's a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what that goes back to what I'm saying about like finding the right individual for the company, because you may well get a brief from a client and they tell you, oh yeah, we want 5 years experience, but then when you actually look at what their product they're building may be, they maybe don't need that. And again, helps me kind of, I guess, consult on that level. And again, like the typical environments they've worked in. So we talked about earlier, like agency is like the most popular, obviously, typically because it's a contractor's market right now. But does it mean that if you work client side that you're lesser of a developer than someone who works agency? No, it's just different environments, different experiences. Again, which is something that I'm looking to identify. To make that, and whether it's a great person I'm going to be working with and whether it's the right person. I think, sorry, just going back to experience, I think that another thing that's really interesting is because of the community, I really like to see when I'm speaking to candidates, like how they get involved in it. So like, we've got Max up here and we've got Grant, they're talking at events. And again, that to me like says a lot about the individual and how much they really care about the product that they're working with, and whether that says a lot, I think, and helps me again if I'm speaking to a client that maybe for instance their CV doesn't read very well because they haven't had to really update it very often, but things like how active you are within the community counts for a lot, particularly in a niche skill set like Magento. And yeah, obviously we've got Imagine last week. Do they go to these events? Do they get involved in that? Is another indication. And we saw earlier with Max, I think he had his GitHub up. So whether you're front end, back end, whatever you're involved with, I think the more you can kind of get an online profile that kind of shows off what you do at the end of the day, and don't be afraid of that, because employers now are looking for it. They want to see that. They want to say, okay, well, what was your decision behind that? Why did you approach it that way? And I think, I guess the name of it is to have some sort of public offering like that. And I guess obviously with Magento 2 right now, a lot of people are saying, well, I want a Magento 2 developer, and it's like, okay, well, let's kind of be realistic about this. And I think that's a really good way of your online portfolio showing how much you're researching into it, whether you've done the online training associated with it. Because when I'm speaking to clients now, I'm managing expectations that, there's a steep learning curve for anybody working with Magento 2 right now. And the best way we can get you somebody that is likely to succeed, maybe the quickest or the best way, is how active they are at doing their own research into it and how much have they looked into it. So personality, that's something, how easy are you to talk to on the phone? And what I mean by that is, if I speak to them and I'm trying to find out about experience and what they're looking for, and I feel like I'm really kind of like pulling teeth kind of thing, I've got to think to myself, okay, well, maybe you're not right for a client that is particularly client-facing. Maybe that's not what you like to do. But if you do like to talk, don't be afraid to talk about what you do and how well you do it, because that's again another element that we can sell to a client to say, look, you stick this person in front of a client, they're going to love him or her, and then they're going to trust what they say. And when they turn around and say, you know what, this isn't necessarily the cheapest thing to do, but it's the right thing to do, they're going to listen. And I think that's that's something which don't underestimate how you come across and how you conduct yourself, depending on what opportunity you're looking for. Okay, cool. Another thing about personality is types of projects you like to get involved with. So as I said about agency, client side, I've worked with developers and they make as a rule, I don't want to work in an agency, that's not what I want to do, I want to work client side, and that's fine. And it's about, again, making the right person for the right job. So if you've got an opinion on it, but just be aware, as I said from the stats earlier, the biggest hirers are the agencies at the moment. So if you're looking to maybe get more experience, maybe not necessarily choose that certain route too quickly, to risk sort of pigeonhole yourself, I guess. Reputation. Obviously, we come to the meetup, Austin Fraser, because we want to meet people. But good people know good people, and I've found more so in this in the developer world, and back when I was doing iOS and Android as well, is that if a developer's worked with another good developer, they'll tell you straight away, and I think that's what I really like about the community element, is that you big each other up, and likewise a bad reputation can get out quite quickly, but that helps as well. But you know, if you have worked with somebody who you know they're good, and you know what, you know, that they're somebody that I would definitely recommend, you know, don't be afraid to kind of tell anybody about it, because that's how, you know, people make better hires and people get through, and how, you know, ultimately what makes a great developer.
Probably get kickback as well, don't you?
Sorry?
Get kickback as well if you recommend somebody.
Well, but the idea is that, you know, at the end of the day, if it was on the other foot kind of thing, and you were looking for work, and then someone said, "Oh, you know, speak to yourself."
If it was 100 quid, it'd be like 50 quid each. Go to the bar.
But yeah, I think with the community element, a lot of people are just not always about the money, but there are rewards out there if you want them. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, and Sam's just raised a good point there about hackathons. Is another way of, you know, publicly demonstrating your skill set, and if you're actively involved in that, as I said about getting involved with the community, then that's something that we can, you know, use to make you a great developer to the client. Cool. So some elements to think about when if you're considering to hire a Magento developer. I guess for a recruiter to tell you this is probably a little bit silly, but don't neglect your own network. Like, there's a strong community out there. First of all, like with any clients I work with, I ask, right, okay, who do you know first of all? Because it's such a busy market. You know, I guess like you have to like manage your time effectively, so do clients. So first of all, who do you know and who do they know? Before you look to recruit in any other way, I would recommend just ask yourself and your contacts that question. And it will obviously potentially save you time and money. But following that, obviously, if you've not got the... come on. Thanks. If you've not got that, one of the biggest things I find, and if I could tip, you know, for a tip for a client or anyone who's considering to hire a developer is, you know exactly what it is you require and define that need. You know, like I said earlier about knowing the amount of years experience you think you need for the project relative to what the project is. Because I've had conversations before with startups who say, yeah, they must have a certification, or they must have this, they must have, you know, 5 years experience, they must be a tech lead. Oh, but I've only got 25k to spend on it. And it's like, you know, have you really thought about it and actually really defined what you're looking for out of this individual? Because again, it's about saving you time and saving you money, and in not getting the wrong person or taking too long to identify that person. So realistically, looking at, you know, what's reasonable, what's realistic. So as I mentioned earlier about Magento 2, you know, you need to be realistic about, you know, what the market's telling you. As we saw with the spread and where people are and the sample size, nearly 500 odds. You know, if you're in, you know, somewhere in Solihull, and you know, in Birmingham, and you want to have someone on site all the time, things like that, you need to manage your expectations. So be realistic. I think a good point to raise here is the benefits that I'm seeing with a lot of clients at the moment by adopting a remote working policy. Some don't agree with it.
6 months on, 6 months off.
Yeah, 6 months in the Bahamas.
Let's just give my head there on that. That's it.
But I think like technology the way it is now, that, you know, there more and more we're seeing that there is less reliance on being in the office all the time, and a lot of developers put the I guess a price on their time and the commutes, and if it, you know, ultimately if it saves you money, and there's a lot of developers out there working remotely only, so, you know, again, it can potentially open up the talent pool for you, like moving forward. interesting, and this goes for both contract and perm now. Obviously, it's a niche skill set, so when you're any client or any person looking to hire somebody, you've got to think to yourself, do you know what? They're interviewing with me and I'm quizzing them about what they've done, how they've done it, etc. But don't be complacent that they've not got other opportunities going on right now. They've got other clients who want to speak to them and stuff like that. So this is also an opportunity for you as the person hiring it to sell what you do and why they should choose you to join them to join you. If that kind of makes sense, yeah, I think it does. But ultimately, just don't underestimate the power of selling, your business in an interview environment. So that when they're looking at two potentially similar paying roles or similar responsibility roles, that you stand out above the others. The other thing as well is, yeah. But what I wanted to say is about something which I have identified within this. Is around technical testing as part of an interview process, and this was something about making them choose you, was that technical testing, I don't know how like you feel, but generally I hear it's a bit of a turn off. A lot of people don't like it because I didn't like tests when I was at school, so let alone being forced to kind of write code and not be in a position where I can test that code and submit it, things like that. So I think generally it's not seen in a very positive way. And I think there's a real danger at the moment with a lot of people when they hire that they put too much emphasis on a pass and fail mark rather than identifying what was the thought process behind it, and maybe providing feedback and using it as a tool within an interview process to discuss about how they approach things. I think that says a lot more about a business if they approach it in that kind of way. I mean, I know the guys down in Berkshire Data Sift, that's how they use it. It's not based on a simple pass or fail. It's based on the feedback and how they explain how they went about it, because there are different ways to approach any problem, and there are different solutions to that. So you never know, you might find something that is even better. So yeah, and I guess look, if you're looking to work with a recruiter when you're considering hiring someone and you do go down the recruiter route, do your research on it. Like, who do they work with? What's their history? Austin Fraser, since 2012, I think we've done over 100 placements within Magento. Again, within a small community, that's a big number. And I think like researching like the backgrounds, do they get involved in the community, is a good way to kind of identify, is this person really going to know what they're talking about, or is 1 minute they're hiring this, the next minute they're hiring that. And going from there. So, little mini plug at the end there for you. It would be rude not to. So yeah, nice avatar with a beard. Cool, thank you. I hope that was kind of informative. It's but if you've got any questions, happy to take them now, or share a beer at the back and go from there.